Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to today's presentation. This is Momentum Monday with Dr. Christopher Jimenez and a part of Bone Doctors Practice. And my name is Matthew Worthington. I'm the Workers' Comp Program Director for PAM Health. I'm also a former chair of the San Marcos Area Chamber Board of Directors. And I've worked with Dr. Jimenez now for a little over 3 years, both professionally and in community engagement. So I'm really excited to be here with all you guys today as part of this and to MC this event. Today, we're going to embark on an enlightening journey into the backstory of how Dr. Jimenez built his business in San Marcos and the region and gain insights into the latest innovations in orthopedic medicine. Today, we have the distinct honor of hosting a true visionary in the field of orthopedic surgery. Our guest speaker is not only a renowned surgeon, but also a dynamic entrepreneur who has made significant contributions to the healthcare landscape here in San Marcos. With a passion for excellence and commitment to serving our community, he has not only transformed the lives of countless patients, but has also built a thriving healthcare business from the ground up. Right now, we have the privilege of hearing firsthand from our esteemed guest as he shares insights, experiences, and invaluable wisdom about his remarkable journey in both medicine and entrepreneurship. From groundbreaking surgical techniques to the strategic vision behind his healthcare enterprise, today's presentation promises to be both enlightening and inspiring. Dr. Jimenez is the founder of Bone Doctors Orthopedic Care. They currently have 4 clinics located in the Central Texas region, including right here in San Marcos, Austin, New Braunfels, and Bastrop. He was recently recognized as a Texas Super Doctor in Texas Monthly, a distinction that is awarded to only 2.5% of all active Texas physicians. He graduated with his bachelor's from the University of Texas at San Antonio. He has completed his med school at the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio School of Medicine and completed his residency at the University of Utah and a fellowship in adult reconstruction and hip preservation out in California. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Dr. Christopher Jimenez.
Thank you. Thank you for those very kind words, Matt. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to everybody for joining us today on this beautiful March day. I wanted to first start off by just talking about care in healthcare and how we're used to getting that care delivered to us. So I think of the time when my parents were younger and I was a child, and the care that was delivered at that time was you went to a doctor, you had something done, and you took the word of the doctor. That's the doctor, right? You listen to the doctor and you do whatever they say, and that's just the way it is. And from a revenue standpoint, from a doctor's standpoint, that meant it's a fee for service, right? You come in, you provide services, you get a fee. Right. And so sometimes the incentives in the wrong setting can be malaligned, right? And the care that you're getting for that price is not exactly the best value. Does anybody here know what value-based care in medicine is? Yeah. So value-based care is something that is being promoted by the United States government and by Centers for Medicare Services. Delivering care on a value-based management plan entails getting that care with experts, getting appropriate performance, right, and having an appropriate patient experience. Right, so that's the value in medicine. And that's changing in orthopedics from a joint replacement standpoint, which, I do a lot of joint replacements. That's my specialty. But over the past decade or so, the government has changed how they reimburse us for these kinds of procedures. And we've moved to more of a value-based system where they're incentivizing you for having good outcomes and for having good patient experiences, not just doing a surgery regardless of what the outcome is. Right, and so those are the incentives that I have. That's that's what drives me and motivates me, and what's gotten me to this point. Okay, so with that being said, let me tell you a little bit more about Bone Doctors and what we're about. Let's bring, should I go get it myself? Or So I'm going to bring in a whiteboard here and just kind of tell you a little bit more about this theory called the golden circle. Does anybody here know about the golden circle theory? Simon Sinek? Yeah? Okay. So you got a big circle, a slightly smaller circle, and the other one right in the middle. Okay? And this is the why, this is how, and this is what. And you can use this model and extrapolate this across any industry out there. All right? And what this guy, Simon Sinek, has done, he's codified what makes certain companies successful. Right? You think of a company like Apple or Amazon or Tesla or Chick-fil-A for that matter, and you wonder what makes them so successful, right? I'm a consumer. Do I buy stuff from Amazon? Oh yeah, all the time. My wife, much more than me. But there's something that separates that company from any other online retailer out there. And there's a lot of people that are trying to imitate them. And there's a lot of people that are trying to imitate somebody like Elon Musk with Tesla, right? Because they're onto something. And what is that something? Well, one thing that a lot of these companies have in common is that they're doing something different than the other smaller companies, where when we think of a burger joint, right? And this burger joint sells really delicious hamburgers. We know what they do, right? But the way they market themselves, they just say, we sell delicious hamburgers. Come on over here, enjoy yourself, right? Maybe that's successful in a small community, but at large, some people will go to the next step and say, oh, how do we do it? Well, we sell delicious hamburgers because we use really fine quality ingredients that are organic, right? So there's a company that will go a step further and say, well, we believe in providing appropriate nutrition for the world to end starvation for kids in Africa. Because a portion of your proceeds will go to this. And through this, we also encourage organic farming at local communities. And so that's why we source all of our food from these local communities. We just so happen to do it this way. And this is what we sell. You as a consumer are going to see that and you're going to say, well, I understand your mission. I want to be part of that and I want to contribute to that. Right? So Elon Musk, or let's go with Jeff Bezos, right? Let's go back to the 1990s. And you have Jeff Bezos, who's a very successful, I think he was in the finance industry, if I'm correct. But he left because he had a vision. And his vision was, I want to deliver goods across the world overnight or next day or 2 days from now. And I'm going to develop a company that's going to be able to send that product to your doorstep at the snap of a finger, right? So he had a vision. He created it in his office. He gets other people on board with the vision, and look where they're at now, right? So the mantra of all this is we have to understand why we're doing something. And we have to sell the why, not the how, not the what, but the why. Why am I doing this? Why did I start Bone Doctors? Well, I'm a person that's been out in practice 7 years, and I've seen a couple of different renditions of practice, being in private practice in Austin, being employed here in San Marcos locally, now starting my own business 3 years ago. So mission statement of Bone Doctors Orthopedic Care is this: imagine a place of healing where compassionate, justified care is delivered by musculoskeletal experts. And it doesn't matter if you're on a farm in Gonzales, Texas, or you're in the big city of Austin. We're only steps away from you. Does that resonate with anybody? All right, so that's why I started the company. I see there's general orthopedists do a really good job, And then I look at my training and where I left Texas and went to some pretty prestigious places and saw, really high levels of care being delivered. And I want to bring that level of care every single place I'm at, right? And I want that care to be delivered in San Marcos, Gonzales, Seguin, San Antonio, Austin. It doesn't matter. I want the same level of care everywhere, right? And it's when you get other people to buy into that idea of, hey, this guy really wants to provide a high level of care every single place he's at. And in order to do that, he needs medical experts that are experts in their particular field that can deliver that high level of care. And we need to be able to go to different areas. And I don't want to spread myself too thin. So we're just going to go ahead and start bringing more people that have the same like-mindedness. Right? And that's when you have a team. You have a team of doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners, nurses, surgical schedulers, MAs, front desk, that buy into that vision and separate you from your competition, right? So once you have that team, you're golden, all right? A couple of things that drive me personally to get to this point. 4 things, okay? So number one, this is told to me when I was first interviewing coming out of school, and people were, talking about, hey, well, what do you like to do? How do you deliver it? What do you expect? Or, this is how you're successful. And one guy told me a few things that resonated with me and stuck with me, and I keep it in me, to this day. You have to be available, right? You have to be able to pick up that phone. So when a painter calls me, I have to be able to answer and say, yep, we'll get them in right away, right? Or the ER calls me when I'm not on call. I say, yep, I'll be there right away. Or like this weekend when I was on call and I did 20 hours of surgery. True story. You have to be available to get to the point where you want to be. You have to be able. Had great training, had excellent mentors, went to University of Utah, did a fellowship with a world-renowned hip surgeon, world-renowned joint replacement surgeon / revision surgeon, came out very confident, right? And have had a lot of experience to get me to this point where I feel like I have the ability to do just about anything in hips and knees and a lot of other things. We'll even go into that. And you have to be affable. If you're affable and people like you, you're separated from all of your competition. Okay? Tenet number 2, bad things are going to happen. That's a way of life. It's Murphy's Law. Shit will happen. Sorry. So I understand that. And it's happened to me lots of times. Okay? But you have to be able to take that, interpret it, right? Learn from it, change something, and then move forward. You can't stay stuck. If you stay stuck looking at that bad outcome, you're going to be in a rut. Don't do that. And then every single surgery that I go into, I'm planning for the worst. Worst case scenario. I plan for everything. If it's a redo surgery, I bring what's called the kitchen sink. I've got everything behind me ready to go. But I'm praying for the best. Right? And the patient, every single patient that comes into me understands that. And then lastly, you have to be grounded. You have to have something back home that brings you back home and keeps you grounded. That's my family. Right? My wife's coming, so she's not here yet. But yeah, without my family, without my wife, without my kids, without my mother, without my father, and everybody that's been involved with bringing me up, none of this would be possible. So, they're always on my mind. So with that, let's go into some questions.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've got some questions for you, Dr. Jimenez, just so we can kind of learn a little bit more, and really appreciate you giving us kind of the history and your history and the history of bone doctors. And also too, for everyone out there, if you all have some note cards on the table. So if you want to come up with some questions, we'll get to a point where we'll do a little audience Q&A. I will read the questions so you don't have to feel nervous about that, but we'll ask just some more and hopefully have some fun questions for you from the audience. To start us out here, I know we were talking about bone doctors and getting that practice started and it's already started growing. pretty rapidly. What are some of the challenges that you faced when you were starting Bone Doctors and trying to delve into that path, and what did that look like?
Insurance negotiations. So that's the way it's big business controls things, and in healthcare, big business is insurance. Bottom line, some companies won't even give you a contract. And they'll just say panel's full. Well, crap. You sure? I'm like only one of three orthopedic surgeons in San Marcos. So it's just being able to negotiate, being able to track outcomes. And yeah, it's something that I've had by starting what's called a center of excellence for hip and knee replacements here at the hospital. Previously was called CTMC, has now been acquired by Christus. But we still carry the designation by CMS for Center of Excellence for hip and knee replacements. And it's one of a few here in the region. It's a really big, on San Francisco's over there. But going through that, having the ability to grab those outcomes and bring them to a negotiating table with insurance companies and demonstrating that, hey, I deliver value-based care, I have great outcomes, and I do it for a low cost, and really opened their eyes and helped us there. And then you look at things like with fights like musculoskeletal, the competitive. There's a lot of orthopedic surgeons. You can't throw a rock without hitting 10 of them. And so going into a new market where you have referral patterns that are fairly well established and planting a flag and saying, I'm here, it's a big obstacle to get over and start getting those patients to come to you. But again, this comes back to that value-based care. Deliver good care, be compassionate, and treat people like their family, and they're going to keep coming back to you. And that's something I've been able to do multiple times over now with clinics in San Marcos, Austin, Bastrop, and now New Braunfels.
Great. Yeah, I was going to say insurance is always a big hurdle. And like you said, being able to jump into a community and, in some areas of market that's saturated with orthopedics and be able to stand apart, I think that's something really special and unique. And really, that's some great success you've had already. So looking forward to seeing that continue. I know we've talked a little bit about this with you. You've trained and performed surgeries all over the world with high-class doctors and surgeons, and really learned from some of the best. And like you said, you've kind of seen and done almost everything. You feel confident. What would you say is the most challenging part about being an orthopedic surgeon for you?
Now, we're talking about the business standpoint or the surgeon standpoint, because that's two very different things.
True. That is true. Let's talk
From a
little bit on
business
the
standpoint,
business.
that is managing people, right? As a surgeon, I'm involved in so many circles, whether that be in the clinic or at the hospital, with radiology techs, with nurses, with a physical therapist, and you name it, I'm involved with them. But on the clinic standpoint, it's going through the employment and trying to retain good staff and identifying who has that same vision that I do, or Bone Doctors does, and who is going to be a good long-term fit. That's one of the harder things there.
Okay. Well, I guess, looking a little bit on the medical side thing, there's a lot of profound innovations that are coming along in orthopedics. I know you've seen a lot of changes already. What is something, or, some of the effects of these changes? What do you see? How do you see that affecting you? And what do you see kind of looking forward that you're maybe excited about in that field?
Well, one of the main things is the way care is delivered. Taking that general orthopedic care and subdividing the pie, right? So that everybody that's a piece of the pie is getting exactly what they're good at, right? So when somebody has a bunion, we'll have a foot surgeon that they're going to see, and they do 5 bunion surgeries a week. When somebody has a knee that's arthritic and has failed conservative treatment, they're going to go to a surgeon that does 500 to 600 joint replacements in a year. So that's probably one of the bigger things that we've seen evolve over the course of the past 2 decades is more subspecialized, um, care. All right. Uh, and then on the technology front, just being in joint replacements, being a part of the medical education team for a large orthopedic company, and allowing surgeons to come be proctored with me in the operating room. I'm a big part of that already. There are things like robotics in orthopedics that we currently use. And again, I'm an instructor for a company, and so we have surgeons coming into the operating room all the time with us, learning that technique. The one of them for hip replacements essentially uses that technology to try to restore leg length and offset and try to make a person 100% even to the other side, so that the risk of things like dislocations or postoperative infections or a leg length inequality after hip replacement goes way down. And then robotics in the knee replacements front, we're currently using a robot that allows us to gauge where a patient's implant should be placed specific to that patient's anatomy. And so from a surgeon standpoint, it just helps us game plan and decrease the likelihood of having any complications in terms of like a loose knee or malaligned or malpositioned knee.
Okay. It's cool to see some of the efficiencies and things that, makes your job easier, the outcomes better. So it's like, hey, win-win for everyone. Kind of back on the business side of things, like I said, we've kind of worked together over the last few years. Something that I've noticed in any area or region that Bone Doctors pops up, you're always a member of the Chamber of Commerce. There's a ribbon cutting. You're part of the community, a lot of that community engagement. If you could just talk a little bit about kind of your philosophy of being involved in the community, of supporting the community and the community supporting you, and what that kind of looks like for you.
Yeah, so you can show up anywhere. If people don't know you're there, you're not going to be successful, or it's just going to take you a long time to hit that point. And so, engaging in chambers of commerce really opens up visibility to others to know that, hey, we're here, and we're supporting the chamber, and we want to be involved with the local community, and we want to support every local community that we're at. So yes, we are part of the San Marcos Chamber. We're part of Bastrop, soon to be New Braunfels, and then Austin as well.
Awesome. I think currently y'all have you have 4 clinics now.
Yeah.
What kind of looking at the future of Bone Doctors? I know you have some growth that you're looking at and things. Are there some future locations you want to tell us about, or any kind of plan that you have, things that you're looking at that you'd like to share with us today to see your direction?
Yeah. So it's been a busy past couple of months. I personally have interviewed somewhere around 15 orthopedic surgeons. We've actually had in-person interviews with about 10 of them. And there's 3 current orthopedic positions that we're recruiting for that range from sports medicine to joint replacements and hand surgery. With that growth, we're likely increasing our complement of mid-level providers like PAs and nurse practitioners. And we'll also be opening up a 5th location, assuming all goes well. 5th location would be in North Austin. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting too. I know, even in North Austin, there's a lot of growth, a lot of things, some big facilities coming in up there with Samsung and everything else. And so I see a lot of movement up there. So I know you're kind of have your eye on the market and where things are, where the need is for orthopedic care. So
correct. Don't disqualify the South Side.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the I-35 corridor is booming. I think we all know that between, Austin, San Antonio, communities like New Braunfels and San Marcos are just exploding in terms of population. And so that's why we planted another flag in New Braunfels. And I think at some point in the next couple of years, you can also expect something in the Seguin or San Antonio region.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing those come along, and I'll definitely be at the ribbon cuttings, I'm sure, and being a part of those communities as well. A little bit, I guess, kind of back into, the surgery side of things. And, I guess kind of a little bit on the question before with orthopedic, being an orthopedic surgeon, what is on that side of things? What is one of the biggest challenges for you or that you see, or there's some
Yeah.
challenges coming up in orthopedics that you're like, oh, I want to navigate these in
Mhm.
advance?
Well, this kind of ties into the business side of things as well. So, one of the bigger challenges that not just specific to orthopedics, but muscular or medical care in general, is that reimbursements continue to get cut, and that's on a yearly basis. Just this year alone, Medicare cut a lot of the procedures that we do by 3.5%. And so I don't see this trend ending. And that's probably the biggest challenge that any independent practice out there is going to have. One of the downsides of this is that it's going to lead to market consolidation with some private practices that uh, could be run slightly more efficiently, needing to close their door and be sold to a hospital type system. And so, with that consolidation, where you see more hospital employed physicians or physicians employed with things like a Walgreens or something along those lines, um, the cost of care may actually go the opposite way and go up. But from an orthopedic standpoint, you know, being a person that does joint replacement surgeries, having the training to do revision, redo surgeries, I see complexities of all sorts. I see people that have been operated on 20 times. I see legs that have, wait, basically the patient's been told there is no salvage, you need an amputation. They're coming to me for a third opinion. So, that's probably some of the harder stuff I do.
Okay. Yeah. I know just trauma alone, I guess you walk in and you're like, oh, we're about to find out what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting and great experience. I feel like, you're like, you can handle that. Then,
Tell me about it. I mean, just this weekend, like I said, I was on call at a level 2 trauma center in Austin, Texas. I was there for about 20 hours this weekend operating. And so, spent about 6 hours on one case. That was 18 surgeries on that one patient. So yeah, it's it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get until the day starts.
it's an interesting box of chocolates. But yeah. I guess along those lines too, I think it'd be interesting with as many practices as you have and kind of that volume, like for you. And I know you have other providers that you work with, but for you on a given day or a week, like about how many surgeries in a week? Is there an average that you perform? What's that kind of look like?
Yeah, so, right now, I'm taking trauma call. There is some volume of trauma surgeries that I'm doing. Trauma being, somebody fell down, broke their bone, or ruptured a tendon, or something along those lines. But the vast majority of my practice is now considered an elective practice. Elective meaning, you and the patient have come to the conclusion that, having a joint replacement or some kind of arthroscopic surgery is going to be in their best interest. Right? So vast majority of my surgeries are elective, and just last year alone, I did somewhere between 500 to 600 surgeries, elective surgeries, and about 200 trauma surgeries. So busy. On average, I'm doing anywhere between 10 to 20 cases a week. In terms of clinic volume, we're seeing somewhere between 25 to 40 patients in a clinic.
Okay. So y'all are hopping, y'all are moving.
We're busy.
Well, that's awesome.
That's why I have help.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing some of your insights and the valuable information about bone doctors. I wanted to give an opportunity for some questions from the audience as well. So, Paige, if you could bring some of those questions up, we'll get those answered as well. So. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, back.
All right. We got some good ones here. All right. Who has been your biggest mentor from a professional standpoint?
I would have to say that's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Love Paul. He's a close friend and a confidant that is one of my best friend's fathers. He is a primary care physician by training and was started a practice over in Victoria, Texas, coming back in the 1970s, I think, as a guy that immigrated from India. Got more training here and planted as a primary care doctor in Victoria, Texas in the 70s. He was able to build a multi-specialty practice that employed somewhere between 20 to 30 doctors in Victoria, and he managed the whole thing. So, having that level of guidance through a lot of this has been very beneficial. Um, yeah.
Okay. Here we go. We've got, what unique patient outcomes do you emphasize for follow-up care?
Unique patient outcomes that I emphasize for follow-up care. Well, in terms of unique to me, from a hip replacement standpoint, ideally I have people off of a cane, off of a walker within a few weeks after their surgery, not limping, not complaining of the leg length inequality. And so one of my favorite things to tell a person that is meeting me for the first time that it has come with severe hip arthritis, they're hobbling, they're limping, they can barely stand up straight. You look that person in the eye and you say, "Hey, this surgery takes me about 40 minutes, and we have the ability to change your life in 40 minutes so that when you leave the hospital that same day, you're going to feel better than you did walking into that hospital."
That's pretty that's pretty good right
Yeah.
there. I've seen both sides of that and people coming in, and I mean, that's kind of the hope and dream of, like, they're hoping for that. What can you show me on the
Yeah.
other side? So it's amazing to see them walking out of there, and when you were hobbling in and
Yeah.
walking out. So that's big. Uh, what's your favorite motivational book?
Uh, it's more of a conglomeration of just experiences, I should say. It's hard to have time to read right now. I I run a business. I'm a very busy surgeon. I've got a loving family at home. I have 2 kids that just adore me and jump on me as soon as I get home. And I try to stay fit. And so you combine all that together and it's like, well, I'll get me time at some point.
Need a few more days in the week. What inspired you to pursue a career in orthopedic care, and how do you see your work impacting the Central Texas community?
Yeah, so Central Texas community, I'm gonna tackle that one first. That gets down to my mission statement for bone doctors. I want to deliver that very high level value-based care to every single person out there. It doesn't matter if you're in Gonzales or Cuero or, Seguin, Wimberley, San Marcos, Austin, San Antonio. It's gonna be the same kind of care that you can get anywhere, right? Um, what was the first part of that question again?
First part is, how do you what inspired you to pursue that career in orthopedic care?
How did I get to this point? Why did I get to this point? I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Walked in the wrong class at college, and here you go.
I'll be honest with you. I'll give you a little brief life story. Born and raised in San Antonio. Grew up on the west side of San Antonio, around Memorial High School. So it gets a little rough over there. I come from a family where my parents, my dad comes from a family of 10. My mom comes from a family of 6. I've got, I can't even count how many cousins, but I was the first one to go to college and actually follow through and graduate from college at UTSA. Um, uh, Going to college, not really knowing that I wanted to go to college at that point. I Going back a step to high school, I was in business careers. It was a magnet school. And so I thought I was going to go into business. And I went to college saying, well, I'm going to be a business major. And in college, one of my basic courses was biology. First semester, I aced it. I got 100 on every single test. And I was like, oh, this is odd. I've never liked school. Yeah, I never liked school. I didn't even want to go to college for a short period of time, and I said, "There's got to be something here. I'm acing this class." And so there was a couple of other life factors that got me to the point where I said, "Well, I think I want to be a doctor." I went to my counselor at that point and said, "Hey, I'm going to change my major. I'm going pre-med." You know what they told me? We're going to keep you undecided. Miss Ruth, how many times have you heard that? Well, yeah, that was the last time I talked to my advisor. I got the internet out, I researched, did my thing, and lo and behold, got into med school. The rest is history from there. In terms of honing in on orthopedics, I've always been a guy that enjoyed musculoskeletal health, I guess you could say. Grew up working out a lot, played some football, did some boxing, did a little bit of martial arts here and there, and musculoskeletal care. I've always just been drawn to it. So, yeah,
It's a natural fit once you got
it's a natural fit. I mean, what else are you going to do but bones and muscles?
Well, I'm just impressed about the 100 on it. I've never experienced that. So that was exciting alone, just hearing about that. I've got a little bit more of a technical question here for you. So, how do you plan to connect your EMR system with other systems, organizations, and thoughts about common EMR systems? That's a
Oh my
doozy
God,
there.
that's a doozy.
Yeah.
Are you sure we're not supposed to be at South by Southwest answering that? That's a tough one. I utilize a company called Athena Health, which is a rather large company, one of the larger companies that provides electronic medical records for clinics. But there's a lot of other competitors out there, and I don't really see that competitive market coming together and proactively working to get one unified system. The same can be said for PACS. Does anybody know what PACS is? It's a medical imaging kind of database. So you take an X-ray, you get an MRI, and all those images are stored inside of a server somewhere. It's called a PACS system. One of the challenges in medicine that we see is that patients may go to a hospital, in Luling, and have images and come see you in Austin or San Marcos for a second opinion and say, well, I've got my images over here. Did you not get them? They said they sent them to you. Like, yeah, we're going to have that conversation again. Yeah. So we're unable to see images from other systems unless we gain access to that system. So that's one of the bigger problems in medicine is the lack of communication between servers, be it PACS or be it EMR. I don't really know how to tackle that problem.
Yeah. Really big barrier for the patient, but it's also kind of in that space that's
Yeah.
a little bit outside of your realm or reach.
Yeah, kind of outside of my realm.
Yeah.
I mean, you may get into a point where you're talking about like a one-payer system, right? And in a one-payer system, maybe you can kind of build on that to build one unified system. But, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. We won't tackle that one today. I've got a couple fun questions here too. So, have you operated on a family member, and was that same stress as normal, different?
Oh man. Yeah, I have actually. I have my wife here, so, but I didn't operate on her. I don't think I would ever do that. But yeah, somebody from her family, and I would say, yeah, the stress level is just a slight touch higher.
And I know you said you spent a lot of time, like even this weekend, had a lot of surgeries, and trauma that you did. Do you have an idea about the longest surgery you performed, about the longest you've been in the OR?
Whew. Well, I just told you I did a 6-hour case on somebody this weekend. That was trauma. Some that probably rival some of my longer cases. Big revision, redo, joint replacements. From a proficiency and a technicality standpoint, I have improved from where I came out. I came out with a chip on my shoulder saying, "Oh man, I'm Chris Jimenez, Dr. Awesome, training at X institution, this institution, trained with, the godfather of hip replacements and the godfather of revision joint replacements. I got this." Woo. Once you hit that operating room and the lights on you, it's a different story.
Yeah.
And so over time, your skills build and build and build and build. And, now that same joint replacement or revision or redo surgery that might have, taken me 5 hours is taking me an hour and a half tops.
Okay. Yeah. You're cutting the time down yourself. That's good. That's why you do it. Well, I really appreciate you sharing with us today. I appreciate everyone and the questions that you had from the audience as well. I think that gave us some really good insight on bone doctors and Dr. Jimenez. And I didn't know if you had any final words that you wanted to say before I close, or any parting words.
Yeah. So I guess the one thing I could allude to is this iceberg.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you're out in the ocean and you stare over to the side as maybe Priscilla and I are in Patagonia on a ship, and we see this iceberg and you say, "Oh, look at that. That's pretty nice." And you can kind of look at that and extrapolate that to life. And you say, "Oh my God, look at that person over there. They're so successful. All right, they're doing such a great job." But the only thing you can see is the surface of the water. Once you peek your head underneath and find out what the guts of the iceberg is made of, you find that the vast majority of the iceberg is underwater. And that iceberg is built in reality on the foundation of lots of stress, lots of long hours, lots of hard work, lots of failures, and a very strong backbone of family that props you up. Right? So that's the way I look at life nowadays. Is there's a lot of work that needs to be done if you want to get to be an iceberg just peeking over that ocean. Oh, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. If anybody has any other questions or concerns, maybe a bum knee, feel free to reach out to Dr. Jimenez. Their clinic here in San Marcos is in the professional building at Christus Santa Rosa, right next door to the hospital, and then also in New Braunfels. He's on Common Street, also next to the Christus Surgery Center. So a couple good opportunities to see him and meet his staff and ask some of those questions that you have. I know a lot of us, I was at the gym this morning and my knee was really hurting. I was like, "Oh man,
I got something for you, Matt."
Yeah, I know. So I really appreciate your time today, and I appreciate everyone else's time as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Let's give it up.
Yes. So, again, like I alluded to earlier, none of this is possible without that strong family backbone and without a very strong woman like I have in my life with my wife, Priscilla. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. That was awesome.
Yeah.